Joe, I want you to please introduce yourself, and thank you for joining us, by the way.
Of course. Hey, no, thanks for having me. My name's Joe Nuzzo. I run Pull the Lever, which is a professional Dungeons and Dragons service. I provide immersive games of D&D for your private events, for your friend groups, for your corporate events, and I've been involved in the Dungeons and Dragons community my entire life.
So what the fuck are you doing here? You know Mark, right?
Yes.
We know each other. I actually was introduced to Joe at my local comic book store at First Aid.
Okay.
He was working there, and that's when I actually started getting into more of like indie related titles. And Joe was like, go read Saga. And after that, he changed my life. So I appreciate you existing.
Yeah, hey, the easiest part about working at First Aid Comics was just telling people to read Saga.
Yeah, go read Saga right now.
That's always my go-to. That's the only way I've ever gotten my wife to read any comic book is like, look at this one. It's really pretty.
Right?
And it's got a great story.
It's a double-edged sword because then people would come back and be like, okay, I need something that's as good as Saga. And it's like, oh, well, there actually is a lot of stuff. But, yeah, no, they always come back.
Still on hiatus, by the way, after... It's been over a year, hasn't it?
It's not a surprise, though.
Don't you wish you could do that? Like, create a bunch of content and be like, I'll get to it when I want to.
At least they write the letter in the back, and they're just like, we don't know when we're coming back, but hopefully in a couple of years. You're like, okay, great. Rick and Morty.
They do always say, like, it takes a really long time. And, of course, it does. Like, Fiona Staples, I can't imagine how much time it takes her to illustrate that.
Yeah.
I mean, how long would it take you to draw a dragon sucking its own dick?
Probably a while.
A really long time, right?
Depends on how much detail you want.
A lot, the most detail.
A lot of veins, a lot.
Yeah, it's gonna take a lot
of skin texture.
It's gonna take a long time.
So, Joe, why don't you? I'll give you a chance to plug all your social media and everything, where people can find you.
Yes. I'm most active on Instagram. Pull the Lever DM. You can find me on there. On Twitter at LeverPull, and Facebook. If anyone still cares about Facebook, Pull the Lever DM on there. I always encourage you to come check out my page if you're into D&D. I try to post regularly. I also like to answer people's D&D questions. I get them all the time on my comments and my DMs. I have a vast amount of knowledge of Dungeons and Dragons that I've gained through my life. No, you're fine. Ooh, buy me dinner first. Jeez.
Never.
Definitely encourage you to use me as a resource on my social media.
I'll use you.
Yeah. Oh, hey,
it's interesting though, considering that Mark and I have never played. We've only kind of toyed with the idea that you would end up here because we literally, you showed up hour and a half ago and we've been peppering you with questions about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, that sounds about right. A lot of people that I meet, even like close friends of mine, now that the game has become so popular, have asked me like, oh yeah, you're into that game. Like, how does it work? What do I do? What do I have to do to get involved? And that's one of the fun parts about, having Pull a Lever now is that I can get people involved in the game. And I know the best way or the fun way or the best way that works for different people to get involved, know.
So how did you get started?
I kind of have an unfair advantage and that I like to brag about. My parents met each other playing Dungeons and Dragons. They were in college in the 70s. And they were around my grandma's kitchen table playing D&D. And that's what my life has been growing up, right? Like, and in my parents' defense, I played soccer. I went to baseball camp.
I thought about was D&D.
Yes, like I remember a moment. I played goalie when I was 8 years old or whatever, and I wanted to play goalie because I could sit in the goal and play with little action figures that I stuffed into my socks, right, and not have to actually run around and kick a ball.
So you're saying you were never going pro?
No. There's another moment too, because all my friends growing up, they're big athletes, and my one friend Nick actually is a world star soccer player. And there's a picture of us at our local Kits Sporting Center. I don't know who the person was, but some famous soccer player came and took a picture of all of us, and they're all standing with him, and I'm just off to the side doing one of these Batman
your own
faces,
shit.
just not giving a shit about who this person is.
That's amazing.
My parents gave me opportunities to break out into other things, but D&D is where I've settled. Yeah.
What was the longest game of D&D you played growing up, or to this day actually?
So I can do a quick Reader's Digest version, Spark Notes. So growing up, probably started playing at like 10 years old, first edition Dungeons and Dragons, because that's what my parents knew how to play, which is...
I didn't know there was different editions.
Yeah, so we're on 5th edition.
We're the worst people
We're
ever
on
to
the
interview with
83rd
D&D.
edition right now.
5th edition D&D came out 5 years ago. It started on first edition, obviously, from a company called TSR. And afterwards, Wizards of the Coast bought the game, and now they're the current owners. But yeah, we played first edition. Sitting around the kitchen table, it was my dad dungeon mastering, running the game, my mom, myself, my brother, my sister, all playing. And when I got to high school, I started like reaching out to my friends, right, and like trying to get them involved. And my good friend Kyle started to play with us, and a lot of my brother's friends started to play. And high school was a kind of difficult time for D&D. That was 3.5 era.
Yeah.
But it was also like the no man's land of D&D, right? Like the game got a lot of attention in the 70s and the first edition era because people thought it was a satanic cult. People literally thought you were worshiping the devil if you were playing Dungeons and Dragons.
And that's what it's about.
That's half the allure for me is hail Satan.
Yeah, I mean, I won't stop you. You know, if that's what you want, that's what you'll do. But so there was a lot of attention on the game because that what was going on, right? And now there's a lot of attention on 5th edition 2019 D&D because of how popular it's become, and you know, with celebrities and pop culture and all that. But high school Joe, right? Early 2000s Joe, no one gave a shit about D&D.
You're realizing that girls are in existence and you want to pursue that a little bit more, but yeah, at the same time you still want to play D&D.
Absolutely. Yeah. So high school, I tried to get my friends involved, but not a lot of people jumped on. And then I got to college, and I got busy with school and like fraternity life and girls and like all that kind of stuff. And but I got to the point where I'm like, I miss this game. Like I'm not playing it regularly. You know, in high school, I played in my weekly group with my family and friends. My buddy Kyle and me would sit in his basement and play one-on-one Dungeons and Dragons. We were playing the Baldur's Gate video games. We would go to Barnes & Noble 3 times a week to see if any content dropped. A source book, a novel, miniatures, whatever. And now you can go to fucking Target and buy a mug that says Dungeons and Dragons. That's unreal to me.
So what do you attribute that to? Is it strictly Stranger Things? I mean, is that like the mainstream?
It's so
portal?
weird because maybe just because I know so much about the game, but Stranger Things like just hit the tip of like what Dungeons and Dragons is. You know what I mean? Like,
Joe Manganiello has an awesome Dungeons and Dragons brand right there.
Yeah, Joe Manganiello. He is a huge person in the community right now as a celebrity Dungeons and Dragons player that has been playing D&D his whole life, like me. You know, and there was, I don't know if you guys saw that meme or whatever. There was like some bodybuilder that like took a selfie of him at the gym, like flexing, and said, "I don't play Dungeons and Dragons." And then Joe retweeted his like men's health cover issue of him jacked as shit and just goes, "I do though.
I do, motherfucker."
Yeah. And so like that blew up. You know what I mean? Yeah. So people like him, other celebrities.
Vin Diesel plays a lot.
Does he?
D&D, yeah. He's a big D&D guy. I think he was on Critical Role for a couple episodes too. I always forget her name, but the chick in Daredevil, the tall one, the thin one. What's her name?
Jennifer
Blonde?
The blonde.
Oh.
Like the lawyer one.
I'm totally
She's in
blanking
True
on her
Blood
name.
or whatever, but she's a big D&D player too. And she does a lot of like charity events and auctions and stuff like that. So I think that's a big part of it.
Is it Deborah Ann Wall?
That's right.
Okay.
That's what it is.
That was going to drive me nuts.
I should probably know that. But yeah, and then Stranger Things helped. But I think the biggest factor is that it's just cool to be a nerd now.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. Like nerd culture has just risen,
exploded.
And D&D is one of those like I think OG nerd culture things. And it's been around for so long and it has such an immersive lore and history and there's so much to the game and it's so diverse and that game can be whatever you want it to be. You know what I mean? You can set it in a high fantasy setting, which is like traditional D&D. But there's also Starfinder, which is like Guardians of the Galaxy meets like Star Wars, like space role-playing games. You know what I mean? There's war strategy games like World War II, World War I.
That'd be perfect for Brick.
I was going to say, I'm kind of, I was more in on the whole Star Wars Guardians of the Galaxy thing. But Brick, You said the word lore,
Yeah.
and now Brick is horny somewhere. So that's
It's
That's our third
guy. D&D is just dumb with lore. There are so many like continents, campaign settings with heroes and villains and towns and small towns and cultures and races. You know, there's elves, orcs, humans, half elves, but that's just the tip. You know, you've got like genasi, you've got halflings, you've got, you know, yeah, you don't even know what these words are.
What are
You know what I mean?
halflings? I want to know
Like,
what a halfling is.
A halfling is like a hobbit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they talk like this?
they talk like whatever you want.
You know, whatever
what it is.
character I got, I immediately
No,
become that guy.
No, because you would start with an accent and you would just devolve into Heath Ledger's the Joker.
I'd become Morgan Freeman.
That's what it is. But yeah, no, it's great. So yeah, I would attribute the popularity of the game to just nerd culture being cool now.
Yeah.
You know.
And I was talking to TJ, one of our buddies who works for Red Bull, and we were talking about huge events. We were talking about how they had League of Legends in China, and they filled a stadium that had twice as many people that attended the World Series this past year.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, San Diego Comic-Con, how many millions of people go to that? And it's up there. I think it may be even one of the biggest event in the U.S.
I
currently.
believe it. I would believe it.
And that is just nerd culture at its finest. All
Yeah.
these people coming together.
I think it's just people won't call you a nerd in a derogatory fashion. Like, it's not it's not a pejorative anymore to call somebody a nerd.
Yeah, it doesn't mean what it used to mean.
Yeah.
You know. Absolutely.
Because I was called a nerd a lot, and it kind of hurt at the time.
Dude, I played Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I was called all that kind of stuff, even by like teachers too. You know,
Yeah.
because my teachers in high school, you know, I would be reading my player's handbook, my D&D player's handbook, and my teachers would be like, "What are you reading?" You're like, "What is that?" Like, that's the devil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like straight up, because that's what they knew D&D to be. So no, it's and yeah, now it's cool, and now people ask me about it all the time. My friends, you know, my coworkers, and I have this huge knowledge of the game and how it works and where it's come from that I've been able to use my Pull the Lever platform to deliver that back into the community, you know, and I do, you know, professional games of D&D, and I get paid for that, and it's awesome, and it's introduced me to so many awesome people. Just a few, like Dave from Smuggler's Coffee. He's a huge guy right now. There's a Chicago D&D Society that I didn't know existed until I got Pull Lever up and going, and now I'm close friends with them. And a lot of other creators and community figureheads in D&D I've been able to like get in touch with and learn from too. You know,
Yeah.
I've been doing D&D my way for so long and kind of in my own bubble because there wasn't other people doing it. That now it's almost like overload, you know, and I'm trying
That's
to like
interesting. Do you like steal techniques from people?
100%. You know what I mean?
Man, I never
like,
even thought of that.
because you know, I can confidently say that like probably being a dungeon master, running games of D&D, I think is the thing I do the best. You know, it's because I'm.
Do you ever
passionate.
feel like I would rather just be a character right now and not do this, or do you
It's-
just love being a DM?
That's the thing,
all the
right?
time?
Like there's a phrase for it. It's called the DM's curse.
Okay.
Because once you're the dungeon master for your group of friends,
You decide.
that you don't get to stop.
Yeah.
Because you know me and my personal group, we just finished a 2-year-long campaign, right?
Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. We need to talk about
We'll
that
come
again.
back. We'll come back. But I'm like, okay, you know, we finished it up. Does anyone else want to do something? I have all these campaign books you can grab or whatever. And they're just like, no, you do it. You know, because
You do the work.
you do the work.
I mean, if they liked how it went in past campaigns, they're not going to want to change it
Exactly.
and be like, Billy's fucking up right now. What are we doing? You know, get him off the DM chair. It's done.
And so I do kind of feel like I'm missing out sometimes, right? Because I would love to be a part of a group and a DM that puts together a campaign, a session at the same caliber that I do,
Yeah.
you know? And recently, since I've been pulling levers, I've actually been invited to play in some other people's groups, which has been like, oh my God, awesome. You know, I've got to rehash my old character from when I was 10 years old, Seth the Mighty Spellsword.
Yeah.
I got to convert him from first edition to 3.5 and now to 5th edition. So he's been a character that I have played as my entire life.
Who decides on additions?
Wizards of the Coast, the people that own the game.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And it started here in Chicago, right?
Started in Lake Geneva.
In Lake Geneva.
So yeah,
okay.
just north of Chicago, probably about like 45 minutes from where we're sitting right now. And so it's just like any video game or board game, or they update the content,
Okay.
you know, and deliver new mechanics, new modules, new story, what have you.
Do they update, I'll call them like, I don't know what they're called, the stats of each character, like their effects, whether it be like a hit or however,
yes
you know,
and no.
defense? I don't know.
There are three kind of like core D&D books that you need to play the game.
Okay.
There's the Player's Handbook, which has all the rules of the game. It also has all the information for like if you want to be a halfling assassin, the stats and mechanics for that character is in that book. If you want to be a half-orc barbarian, it's in there. If you want to be a dwarven cleric, it's in there. You know what I mean? That's where all that material comes from.
Obviously, if I'm a dwarven cleric.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
They don't update those books. They just add more content to them.
Okay.
And like rebalance some things, you know?
Because it's lore. They keep it the same. They don't want to change it.
Well,
Exactly.
sometimes you got to nerf something like a video game.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to expand on something. I get it. That's not totally off base. Is
No,
it?
no. That's right on the nose. And actually, I think Wizards of the Coast, especially with 5th edition, has done a really good job of keeping the community involved in the content making. They have like a blog or article thing that they put out kind of like once a month called Unearthed Arcana. And they put out everything that they're currently developing for the game. A lot of the times it's new classes and new characters that you can be, and allow dungeon masters and other players to play test that content, fill out a survey, send it back so that they know how their new stuff will fit into the existing stuff. So like that's awesome to have.
So they get feedback
They
from
get feedback.
the community
Exactly.
on how things are going.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another good example of that is so as a dungeon master, you typically have a dungeon master screen in front of you, right? And that is basically just a divider between the dungeon master and the players, so they can't see what I'm doing behind the screen, right?
Okay.
They don't see my notes. They don't
Yeah.
see my monster miniatures that I have. They don't see my dice rolls. You know what I mean? And when 5th edition came out, they like put a DM screen out there, right? And then everyone was like, hey, this DM screen kind of sucks, because a lot of the times on the back of it, they have stats and information that the DM can reference during play to make sure you don't have to flip through the book every time you forget a rule or
keep it
something,
going smoothly.
right? So they're like, oh, okay, you don't like this DM screen. Tell us what you want on the screen. Here's a survey. Fill it out. Tell me what you want on the screen, and we'll resend it out. And they did that. And so now they like have updated content that I actually need and use as a DM on a regular basis.
That's more than every
cool.
video game company ever has done
Right?
to
Yeah.
appease any of their fans. So
The most recent
props
I
to
can
you.
think of is the Sonic the Hedgehog movies.
That
Actually,
did-
they listen to the people, and
Which
they
like
changed.
bravo, by the way.
Yeah.
Like,
You know, man, I don't want to go on a diatribe here, but I will because that's what I do. But everybody on Twitter now is like, they changed this specifically because people were complaining, you better go see this movie. That's not how this shit works.
No.
That's not how that works at all. If your movie's gonna suck, I'm still not gonna go fucking see it just because you made something look a little less creepy.
Yeah.
Just I still have nightmares of the original Sonic
with the teeth.
spinning through my fucking nightmares. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go see. I'll probably go see it, but I don't owe you anything.
No, I agree. But those are the steps that, you know, they need to take to make it successful for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, that never should have made it through focus groups.
Right?
it was kind of fucked up.
The design
the
should have
super
been
long
immediately
legs.
Like, no,
Yeah.
this is wrong.
Did one person on that team take a look at Sonic at all? Like in any medium?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure the gloves on Sonic had fingernails too.
Oh,
it was really
Don't
fucked
say,
up.
don't say.
You have like
I
veiny
don't need to know.
calves.
Yeah, I don't.
Veiny calf Sonic.
Oh shit.
God. Thank you.
So before we go on to the actual episode, I want you to talk a little bit about like your business and what you offer to people, like maybe some rates and things like that. I know it varies, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely,
but
absolutely.
You are here because we want you to get your business out there and teach more people about D&D.
And I greatly appreciate that. So as Pull the Lever, I offer a couple different services. Anything from your own like personal friend group wanting weekly or semi-regularly Dungeons and Dragons session. I will come to your house. I provide characters if needed. Or
He's not a murderer.
I'm not a murderer. That is confirmed. confirmed. I will provide characters if needed, or I will teach you how to make characters if you want to make your own. I have all the stories. I have all the content, all the miniatures, dungeon tiles, anything that you need to play the game, I can provide. And then I will also take time to write the story and have weekly content for you and your friends to play.
And you can cater it depending on. And you also said you do it for corporate events, which is
that's
really cool
the
too.
other side of Pull the Lever and kind of how it started, where the idea came from, and we can come back to that too because that's important, I think. But yeah, I offer corporate level professional Dungeons and Dragons sessions, and I market the game to be a team building exercise for employees to partake in. And one of the kind of services that I think is awesome and what a lot of employers like is that I do kind of a after the session update to the employer. So I will be like, okay, player A, your employee, showed good signs of leadership by doing this with the group. Employee B was a real team player because they helped out.
You need to fire immediately.
Exactly. C, you need to fire immediately.
Fuck this guy.
And I work with the employer to build the session to develop skills that they specifically want addressed. So like, if you have like a good example is I did a group for a new team of employees, right? New hirees, people that didn't know each other. And it was kind of like a, break the ice kind of session.
Yeah.
So I was able to like get them all involved in the game and talking and participating to help them in their team development, their team growth. I can cater the session to build on leadership, to build on teamwork. Creative thinking is a big one too, I have a session coming up next week for a design company, and they help companies find their identity. And the person who hired me, the client, asked me to build the session to help their employees find their identity as a player in the game. So I work with whoever brings me on to develop the content for what they want it to be.
That's awesome.
And then I also do fun stuff too. Like I've done bachelorette parties, bachelor parties, birthday parties.
At what point do you come out in a thong?
If you want Dungeons and Dragons and dicks, there is a separate private rate we will discuss.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Just a dick emerging from the foggy forest.
Dude, you got it. That was
that right
excellent. Yeah, that was on the spot.
Mark's here to take your job.
Right?
Dungeons and dicks.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like a paid DM, right? A professional DM is kind of a hot topic in the D&D community. It's kind of split right down the middle. People hate that there are paid DMs, but people love that there are paid DMs, right?
You're getting a lot. You're giving a lot more exposure to like what the game is for people like us. And initially, when you were talking about like the corporate events, I'm like, that's awesome because you can cater the game to be 3-4 hours long.
Yeah.
When I think of it, I want to hear about your crazy year-long campaigns that you've had.
I need to ask more
I've had a
questions about
3-year
that.
long.
Being able to do it within like create the story and be like, oh, this will take 3 hours and just give these people that experience of what D&D is.
Absolutely.
That is amazing.
No, and that's kind of the harder part of it, right? Is to tell a story from start to end in 3 hours and have it be satisfactory. Because it's easy to do in 2 years.
Or you can leave it a little open-ended to be like, if you guys want to continue, here are my prices.
Right, there it is.
Leave him on a cliffhanger, just upcharge him.
Upcharge him on the cliffhanger.
He was backing up towards the guarded door. In walked. Until next time,
Oop,
guys.
that's
I'll
the
see
time,
you.
guys. Sorry, yeah.
That's the EA version, pay to play.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of what Pull a Lever started as, is this kind of, professional Dungeons & Dragons services, which is still very active in doing. But another part that I kind of see as the future for Pull a Lever is the Chicago D&D community growth.
It's probably huge.
It's crazy, right? And in this year that I've been running Pull a Lever, I've been running sessions all over the Chicago land, all over the suburbs, everywhere I can get in, I've been running sessions. And I've kind of discovered that there is a big community here that's just not joined together yet. It's not unified. And I think when a lot of people think of like the Dungeons and Dragons community, it's all LA. It's all California. It's where the celebrities are. That's where the big streaming groups are. That's where all the charity events are. That's kind of where the hotspot is. But Chicago needs to be that, or be that.
Should be
bigger. right? Like Chicago should be a pilgrimage for D&D people, D&D fans, because it was made here essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I want to use Pull the Lever as a platform to get Chicago on the D&D community map.
Absolutely.
And I've already started to team up with other figureheads in the Chicagoland, like Smuggler's Coffee, like the Chicago D&D Society. We already have some kind of events brainstorming that we're going to try to put on next year. And even like you guys too, like you guys are Chicago. You know, you're here, you're a part of the community, and sound pretty thirsty to play too.
I want to play some.
Yeah, we were talking about it. We're gonna bring you back, and we want to set up a game maybe with a couple of your friends that are the experts, and then we'll be the noobs, obviously. And we want you to DM a game, and we should live stream it. That'd be pretty fun.
Absolutely. And, you know, you kind of say like, you know, experts and noobs. And that's a big thing about the game, too, is a lot of people, especially now that it's so popular, there are more people now than ever that are curious. They want to know about the game. They want to get into the game, but they don't know how.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where Pull the Lever can come in as a knowledgeable service platform, whatever, to get you involved in the game. But it's not that hard, though. Like,
because you know what's worse than learning a game is trying to teach someone a new game.
That's what it is. But
That's
like,
worse. That's that's why I wouldn't want to do it, is because I can watch YouTube videos, but then I got to explain it to friends like Brick, and then lose.
Brick just doesn't have the attention span for it. So.
Like, you know, I say it's not that hard, and I mean by it's not that hard to get into the game. You know, if you want to just go to a store, a gaming store, a comic book store, even fucking Target,
Barnes and Noble,
yeah, all have Dungeons and Dragons starter kits for $20, and you can open that and start playing. That's all you need. You just need the starter kit and a group of friends that want to play.
Smithers is like, I know Mark will want those, some fancy ass like crystal dice.
You're
I'm bougie as hell.
You're incapable of just buying like a normal D&D set. Like you're gonna go out and you're gonna buy like a giant Batman figure and be like, this is my guy. Like, well, you're supposed to be like a bard or something, and you're not fucking Batman, dude.
This is Arkham Bat Troll. It's here to fuck shit up.
No, there are. There's a DC tabletop game.
Yeah,
that's just DC D&D.
I was bored yesterday, and I'm like, what are the most expensive D&D dice? And then it got into like all these fashion brands like Saint Laurent, like really high up fashion clothing lines were producing like D&D dice that were like straight crystal.
Well, that's the thing, and you guys know as nerds, like we like to spend fucking money.
Yeah,
like that's what it is, you know. And I can fill a bathtub with all my extra D&D crap, you know. But no, actually, I think it's the 40th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, and they just released a $300 set of sapphire dice. So.
Okay.
All right, we'll split it, Smithers. Well, there's 2 dice,
We've
right?
never played a game before.
I think it's a full set of like 7 dice. You need 7 dice to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Are they all 32-sided, or are they like
there's
the gamut?
D20,
They're
D12,
20-sided, right?
D10, another D10 that's a percentile dice, a D6, and a D4, and a D8. Yeah, no, there's a variety in there.
I thought you were just playing with one 20-sided dice, because isn't there just
the 20 is like the main die, right? And,
okay.
And I should have brought like a character sheet or something. Your character has like stats, right? You have like a run stat, a swing your weapon stat, a cast your spell stat, right? So I say, hey, Mark, you want to swing your sword? Make an attack roll. You grab your D20, you roll it, you add your stat bonus to the roll, and you say, Joe, I rolled an 18. And I tell you if that is a successful roll or a failure roll, depending on the situation, right? And then let's say you hit. Okay, you hit with what weapon do you want? Great sword. You want an axe, two-handed axe? You're going to grab your D12. You're going to roll that. You're going to add your strength modifier to that, and that determines the damage.
Okay. Actually, I want a double hatchet, wielding them, just fucking spinning.
You can't just change Mark.
I changed my weapon mid-attack.
Look, my D&D phrase is it's D&D, do what you want. So if Mark wants to switch to 2 tomahawks, he can switch to 2.
Don't encourage him, man.
All right, I want to hear about, you told us a story.
Yeah.
I want to hear about your longest campaign you've ever been through, which I thought was insane.
So more recently, me and my
and this is kind of how you started Pull the Lever, right? To some extent, or was it already started?
Pull the Lever got started at First Aid Comics.
Okay.
Because of Tom Seymour, actually. Tom
is the owner of First Aid
Comics. Yeah, he's a great guy, and if you're in Chicago, please go visit his store and tell him we sent you. It'll annoy him, and that'll be funny.
Oh, yeah.
No, so I guess back to the campaigns. Me and my personal group, we just finished a 2-year-long Curse of Strahd campaign.
Jeez.
Which isn't the longest campaign that I've run, like consecutively.
Really?
I did a 3-year-long homebrew campaign.
And a campaign is one game for the listeners.
Yes, one game. One cohesive storytelling experience. And the difference between the two is that Curse of Strahd is a Wizards of the Coast licensed campaign module, right? So they released a book that has all of the source material that as the DM I use to play the game, right? It's all the plot points, the setting, monsters, villains, heroes, everything you need is in that book. That was 2 years long.
Jeez.
My 3-year-long campaign was a story that I wrote from scratch, like developed on my own like personal, my group likes to call it News Out Spice content.
And this is like each time you would hold the night of D&D, you would keep on writing additional things, or it wasn't like you wrote it all at once and you're like, this is what's going to happen?
So it's
or
a little bit of both, right? I wrote the overall story, right? The major plot points, the setting, I world builded, right? Introduced like characters and stuff. But that's the thing about D&D is that as the dungeon master, I'm telling the story, right? But the players tell the story as much as the dungeon master. Because I could write something, but the players could do something completely different than what I think they're going to do. And a good example of that, and actually the 3-year-long campaign that I wrote, which was a seafaring campaign, it was sort of like a Waterworld Zelda Wind Waker scenario.
Oh God, I want to write a sea shanty so bad.
Do it, right? So the first quest of the group, right, was to capture this Robin Hood-esque pirate. His name was Captain Nico, okay? And turn him in for a bounty. And I planned the whole quest to be like a 2-month-long scenario where they encountered Captain Nico, but he was too strong for them to take on at low level. So they join his crew, and they get behind enemy lines, and they learn about him, and they capture him when the time is right.
But Captain Nico had really hot cousins, and they decided to pursue long relationships with them. And the game ended.
Out on sea, right? 3 years of just, I roll a seduce check, you know?
Wait, Joe, how do Captain Nico's cousins look? Like, what's their appearance? You're like, they're pretty hot. All right, well, this is what I'm going to do.
Which happens. Like, that happens too, but we'll get to that too. But yeah, so this 2-month-long quest to capture Captain Nico. I kid you not, literally, the first time they encountered Captain Nico, they captured him. Out of the gate.
Out of the rolls?
Out of the rolls.
So all the work
out of the rolls. All the 2 months of prep that I had thrown out the window.
They're like, do you fight Captain Nico or do you shake his hand? They all shook his hand and they were friends.
Straight up, you know? And so that's when I learned as a dungeon master that you cannot over prep your content.
Okay.
Right?
That makes sense.
So now I develop the overall story, the major plot points, and session by session I generate what's going to happen that's dependent on what has already happened, you know? And I let my players tell the story as much as I do, and plug in those plot points to where it kind of naturally fits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to tell a linear story and don't let your players get creative and like do what they want, it's gonna be boring. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I want to like go into the tavern and buy a beer and like sit down and try to talk to some of the locals. It's like, oh, you can't do that because I didn't write anything.
Yeah, they want to have power and kind of mold the story too, 100%. Even though they know you're the one that's kind of guiding everything. And because
they're the ones in the game. They're role playing. They're getting into the shoes of their characters. You know what I mean? So their creativity just starts flying off the charts. And you know, you mentioned like, do you shake Nico's hand or do you fight him? A good example of that is like, you know, your group. You walk into a tavern. It's dimly lit. It's the low evening. There's not a lot of people, and just the kind of locals are there right now. There's a hooded man sitting at the bar at the end, kind of in the shadows. He has a hood over his head, shadowing his face, with stones floating over, and a large curved saber in his belt.
I want to show him my butt.
That'll happen, right? Or my players will be like, "Who else is there?"
Super interesting guy.
And I'll be like, there is a group of halflings at a table. They just got a round of drinks. I want to go get a drink with the halflings. And here I am.
Avoiding confrontation. There you go.
With my notes about this hooded quest giver. And I'm like, fuck, all right, who are these halflings? You know what I mean? Like, I have to now improv 30 minutes of them getting drunk with halflings at the bar, not paying attention to, like, the actual content of the game, which is fine. But, like, you can't over prep because the players are going to do what they want to do.
That's funny.
The main reason I would be afraid to play with Smithers is because if we got into a bar setting, it would go on for 3 hours where you'd be like, Smithers, what do you want to do? I'm going to have another beer.
I need a bush.
I'm going to have another beer. I'm going to have another beer. 4 hours later, Smithers is drunk as fuck.
I'm not mad about it.
No, and that's what, I test that being a DM is like the best thing that I think I do. And that's part of it, right? Is being able to play with the players and bounce off them and get creative with them and improv with them. One of my pull a lever groups, I've been running a game with them for like 4 months now.
Okay.
And they were all new players. We play on a weekly basis, and they all have before me only played the game once. And they told me after the fact, as I was on my way to their apartment to play our first session, they said that if I was weird or like creepy, or if I ran a bad game, that they would probably never play D&D again, because the first time they played was with a DM that wasn't, I guess, good or just wasn't interactive or into it. He was like, creepy or didn't play the session well, and so they had a bad first impression. You know what I mean? So I was more than happy to show them how D&D should be played or can be played. More importantly, so it makes a difference having a lot of those skills, and I think what separates me as pull a lever as a professional DM to other DMs is that I have those skills. And
you love the game.
I love the game. I can walk into a corporate office downtown Chicago. I can be professional. I can engage the players. I can run an immersive session and keep everyone involved and having fun and happy.
Do you wear a suit when you show up to like a business?
With like horns?
Oh my God, that's or like a
prosthetic horns.
I should. No, I don't. I usually wear like my pull lever, merch or whatever. But that's not a bad idea. Yeah, that'd be pretty fun.
All right. If you had to give a character to me and Smithers right now, I know you pick your own character, but who would Smithers be? Who would I be?
It's fun, right? Because like I look at you, Smithers, and you're like this super tall, kind of like built dude.
You give him
like,
a troll.
Oh, this guy, he's the half orc champion fighter.
Yeah.
With a hand axe in each hand, leather armor, charging into battles with his tactical fighting. But I want to see you as a gnome tinkerer.
Dude, as long as I
you know what I mean? Like
he uses super complex words.
I'm totally fine with that.
There are stats for assless chaps if that's
beautiful.
What you want.
I'm in on that.
Better agility stats with the assless chaps.
They're more breezy stats. Yeah, better athletics because you're less restrained.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like the beauty of it is that you can literally be whoever you want or do whatever you want. You know what I mean? There's so many classes, so many races, so many combinations that you can do.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, me and my buddy Tim, we used to live together, and we would spend all night just making characters, not actually playing the game, but just making combinations of characters.
Are there guidelines you have to follow? Like you can only combine so many attributes of a character?
No. So that's a change that has come to 5th edition D&D. Is before, yes, especially in 1st edition and like 3.5, there are prerequisites that you have to meet in order to be a paladin, in order to be a barbarian. But now 5th edition, do whatever the fuck you want. Doesn't matter.
I so want my wife to play and for her to be a barbarian.
Yeah. Like you think of like, oh, a barbarian is a human or an orc or, a Goliath, which is like a half giant, right? But now it could be a halfling. It could be a gnome. It could be an elf. Like whatever the fuck you want. Like do it. Go for it.
I'm just thinking of Hagrid.
Yeah.
And Okay. We go way back, me and Hagrid. Yeah. He was on my mom's TV on Thanksgiving.
Beautiful.
Harry Potter?
Beautiful.
But that's the other thing too, and kind of on that subject of making a character that you want to make, people's play styles, right? It differs. And that's something I've learned with Pull the Lever 2 is, I have one group that is very role play heavy, right? They like when they are speaking at the table, they are speaking as their character. You know what I mean? Like that's what's happening.
That's 100% Mark.
I have other groups that are rules heavy. Right, they are min-max. They want the best stats.
They're tight butthole.
Best combinations, which is a little buttholey.
You're like, chill. I'm the dungeon master. Relax.
Well, like
you're all dead now.
Yeah,
I guess the only downside of that I see is that a lot of those sessions, we're just arguing rules.
Yeah, that's annoying.
You know what I mean? And
who likes to argue, right, Smithers?
Wizards of the Coast has a disclaimer, like right in the front cover of like all of the core books that says, these books, these rules, these mechanics are guidelines, suggestions to your games of Dungeons and Dragons. Ultimately, you make the rules. You make the calls. You are the referee.
Yeah.
As the dungeon master, like I think the storytelling and role playing parts are the fun parts. So like, Smithers, if you want to go into the bar and get drunk with the halflings and like try to knife throw with them, you know what I mean? Like if that doesn't fit into the rules, fuck it. Like
fuck your rules.
What's the point?
Rule of cool.
I want to drink with them,
right? Rule of cool. And yeah, that's something that I try to incorporate into my sessions with all of my players.
Well, either you're a really good salesman or Dungeons and Dragons is actually a lot of fun. It doesn't really matter either way. You did a hell of a job explaining that, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, if I can introduce the game to a new person every day, that's the goal.
I think you got 2 today, so
yeah, we'll be playing.
Ba-boom. And that's the other thing too is like the skills of being a D&D player I use in my everyday life.
Well, it sounds like you're a hell of an improv guy.
Yeah. I mean, like in my actual job, like I'm in front of clients a lot, right? And I'm pitching projects and trying to get their business and being friendly with them, and my ability to be in front of a group of people who I don't know and express my ideas in detail and make a personal touch. It's an invaluable skill.
Instead of imagining them like naked, how people do, you probably just are like, all right, he's a halfling, he's a troll.
Yeah, but some of them are halflings and trolls.
Yeah,
but that like being a part of D&D, the skills that you learn playing and running it are skills that you can use in your everyday life.
Yeah, you have to be so creative, especially to be a dungeon master.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's something you can learn. Like you guys have never played, but you will learn to play and you will learn those skills.
You're damn right I will.
That's cool.
Oh my God.
All right.
That smile.
Dude, I'm into it.
Me too.
I don't know what else to say.
You're coming back here in a couple of weeks and we're going to get one going.
We are going to do a live stream, I promise. We got to get it together and we'll figure it out from
Do you guys like me or something? Because like
you're okay.
Oh geez. Okay.
Like you right now.
I shouldn't have asked that.
Like is on the way.
All right, let's move on with the show. Thank you for the in-depth analysis.
Of course.
I really appreciate it.
I could sit here all day and talk D&D. That's what it is. But we got bigger fish.
We do, and we're going to get there. This is an extremely short news week. It's like everybody just decided it's Thanksgiving and I'm going to go home early. So we got 2 kind of trailers for things that we've already seen. Joe, I'd actually, since you worked in a comic book shop, I want to get your opinion on this.
Sure.
This Harley Quinn and this really long title that I'm not going to remember.
Birds
every
of
week.
Prey, Fantabulous something.
Sure.
Extravagant.
We got another international trailer for this, and it doesn't really show us anything new, but you do get more of Margot Robbie's terrible accent.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this movie?
What are your thoughts on Margot Robbie?
So
overall?
I'm
That's
like,
probably the better question.
I'm not a huge critic, right? Like I generally like every movie that I see. Like I don't need a lot of stuff to happen in it for me to like it.
Okay.
But I kind of don't get that from what I've seen so far, especially with the Birds of Prey movie. Mm-hmm. I think that it's just focusing too much on Harley Quinn, right? Like, I want to see more of the Birds of Prey. I want to see more of the ensemble, and maybe I kind of blame Marvel a little bit because they did such a good job of like having each member of the Avengers have their own story, have their own movie, and then bring it together so that you already know everything before they're all together. Mm-hmm. That I wish that's what I was getting with the Birds of Prey, Mm-hmm. So like. Yeah, I guess I'll probably like it when I go see it, but I'm not, I guess, full in right now.
I will watch anything with Ewan McGregor in it, so I'm good with that.
That's reasonable.
But Mark, this is a nice little segue into you started watching the DC Universe cartoon.
Yeah.
And it's the same character, basically, played by Kaylee Cuoco in the cartoon. Can you give us like a short review on that?
Yeah, so episode 1, we always, if it's fine, it's fine. That's usually what we say. Episode 1 was fine. They were a little over the top with the fucks that they can use now on the streaming service for DC, given this show is really focused on the fanboy culture. So they're great at bringing in characters, having funny one-liners. Like you have Killer Croc that says something about his background that you would only catch if you read comics or were familiar with that kind of stuff. I have not high hopes, but I am looking forward to the rest of the series. I will say it. At first, they really throw it in your face, like I said, with all the fucks in the first 10 minutes, and you're like, I get it. Like you're doing this right now.
You're edgy.
You're edgy as shit. Great. It does get better, and I think if you're not familiar with the background of DC characters, it's going to be a little hard for you to keep watching.
So it's not a good introduction. Like Batman the Animated Series was a perfect introduction to most of the rogues gallery, if you will. Like you learn about Clayface and Victor Freeze and everybody else. So it's not the same kind of.
It is, but like I said, it's like they have characters that they'll say something funny for 10 seconds. Like they go to Calendar Man and they're in the prison and he's at the glass talking to his wife on the other side.
Okay.
And somebody mentioned something like, you can remember that day, but you can't remember your son's birthday. And he's like, I just forgot it. He like shit like that, you know?
Okay. That's kind of funny.
Like kind of funny. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of it to see how it pans out.
Okay. Are you still lukewarm on Margot Robbie's terrible accent?
I don't know. Suicide Squad, her performance was one of the only semi-good things with that whole movie. So
Will Smith wasn't terrible in that movie.
He wasn't.
It was just a really bad movie.
He's never... Well, that's for the most part with not a lot of his movies, but if there ever is a bad movie with Will Smith, it's not because of his performance, it's because of the bad writing.
Bad writing, yeah.
Same shit.
Or Jaden Smith is there. And
I think it bothers you a little bit more, her portrayal or her accent, if that's the only thing
it's so forced. And she's an excellent actress, and I would never say anything otherwise because I've seen her do amazing jobs in everything. So I'm sure that she's going to be fine in this. It's just, if that's the one thing that's like nails on a chalkboard for me, it's really going to take me out of this movie.
But you've also never been in the situation where where you have like a thick Australian accent and you have to play some other type of character with a different dialect.
No doubt. No doubt. I
Yeah.
completely understand that. It's just, I'm unlike Joe, who likes everything. I hate most things.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to balance here.
Back to the Harley Quinn animated series, Kaylee Cuoco is, the voice acting, I will say, is pretty phenomenal.
Okay.
That's good to hear.
From what I've seen so far.
Check that out. Yeah, that's good to hear.
It's pretty, I forget who's playing Joker. Good Joker voice, not Mark Hamill, you know.
The only thing that matters is Batman is Diedrich Baker, and Diedrich Baker is the fucking man.
Yes.
Do you know Diedrich Baker?
I don't.
He's the dirtbag neighbor in The Office, or I'm sorry, Office Space.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Not
okay. Nope. Yep, we're on board.
He's that.
That's
like you see him,
fantastic.
you're like, oh, that guy. Yeah, he's in a sitcom now, American Housewife. He's awesome.
Yeah.
And he's got a really good, deep, gravelly voice.
No, he's
good.
All the voices are pretty good.
Yeah.
I would recommend though watching it with Erica and getting a woman's perspective because she
will.
likes cartoons. She likes
She loves
animated
cartoons. And
series.
especially she loves the DC animated universe.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I could never get her to read a DC comic. Like it's never going to happen. It's like Marvel movies, DC animated movies.
Dungeons and Dragons.
I was going to leave them out of this, but I would say that honestly, DC animated universe is just a step below the MCU. Like they do such an amazing job on those movies that, she'll watch any of them with me.
Yeah.
Even if they're not that good.
The one bad thing is they don't have Bryan Cranston as Commissioner Gordon, but I won't fully spoil it. It's not the Commissioner Gordon you know and respect.
Ooh,
this is after the events of Barbara. So he's kind of lost his shit.
Okay.
He's lost his shit.
Yikes.
And they do a good job with that too.
All right, fair. Good. That's actually a pretty good recommendation then. The other trailer I wanted to talk about this week, is we had a TV spot. It's about 2.5 minutes long for Onward, which is this Pixar animated movie with Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and a lot of other big names. But mostly I want to talk about this because the more I see of this trailer and the more they show me in the story that it's going to be, the more I think that I'm absolutely going to love it. They're revealing, I mean, it's got kind of a heavy magical vibe, a heavy D&D kind of vibe where it's a magical staff and you're kind of bringing back half of your dad, but it's only the bottom half, so he can't talk to you. This looks hilarious and awesome at the same time. It's Pixar, so you know it's going to be the utmost production quality and it's going to be a great story. And Joe, have you seen the trailers for this?
No, this is the first time I'm hearing about it, and I am interested.
So it is a magical world. They're elves, I believe.
Yep.
And it's kind of they pitch it as magic was really hard to learn. So instead of developing their magical skills, they kept developing technology similar to what we do now. And it's kind of like this lost art. And Tom Holland discovers that his dad, who was an accountant, was actually a wizard. So on his 16th birthday, their mom, the dad has passed away. The mom gives him, Tom Holland, a magical staff and is like, this is what your dad wanted you to know about. So they summon his bottom half, so he's a butt and some legs, and they go on a quest to bring him back because they have 24 hours to bring him back fully. So it looks awesome.
Looks good.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I'm looking for that.
It looks like it's going to be one of those feel good,
yes,
like every Pixar movie there is.
It's probably going to be really sad at the end, though.
Yeah.
I kind of get that feeling. Like you're kind of toying with bringing back the dead, and that's never.
But they might do the reverse Pixar where they do like the really sad shit happens in the beginning, like Up, and then they
bring it back. Yeah,
could be.
I think it's more feel good at the end.
Yeah, if the dad's dying, if they don't say though, you're a wizard, Tom Holland, then count me out though.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Hopefully not.
I'd be in for that though.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be really good. It's been a while since we've had well, I guess it hasn't been that long. We had Incredibles 2 in July. An original Pixar idea though. Always here for it.
Yeah.
When's that due to come out?
Boy, I should know that, shouldn't I?
There it is.
I really should.
Asking the hard
You're going to put me on the
questions.
spot like that.
I'm going to say June of next year.
I'm going to look that up right now. And
Survey
I'm
says
going to continue March 6th.
March 6th.
So we are closer than you think.
We're coming up.
Okay, let's talk some news proper here. And this, like I said, it's a really slow week. But as a guy who used to work in a comic book shop,
Yes.
I assume you have takes on this. Mark Ruffalo has been meeting with Kevin Feige, who is basically the king of the MCU. He develops everything. And this is a direct quote from him. Kevin Feige just asked me last week if I had more ideas for stories about the Hulk. And I said, yeah, there's still a lot more to do here. Why don't you come in and tell me about them? Like, so they had this conversation. And Ruffalo's response was Hulk versus Wolverine.
Ooh.
So if you're a big comic book person, big reader, you would think directly back to the late 80s, early 90s, specifically covers like Wolverine's claws out, and in the reflection of his animated claws, you see the Hulk's face.
They fought a lot.
Yes. And actually, Wolverine was introduced before he was an X-Man as a enemy of the Hulk.
Yep.
So
Incredible Hulk 181.
And that goofy costume, I love it so much.
Oh, the yellow and brown is terrible. So terrible. But that's basically, he's saying that's what he wants to see. He wants to see Hulk versus Wolverine. So now Disney owns everything because Disney.
Great idea. The actual first full appearance of Wolverine. I mean,
I think that after the failures that they've had with Hulk's movies, I think that they're probably hesitant to just give him a standalone movie. Mark Ruffalo is good. I don't think that he'd be great as carrying the load as the lead in a movie.
I agree. Bring back Edward Norton, right?
I liked that movie. I didn't love it. I didn't say it was a masterpiece or anything, but that was a decent movie.
I liked his, honestly, I liked his take on Incredible Hulk more than Ruffalo's, because
he was doing yoga and
he
shit.
embodied the rage, the disturbed mind that I know Hulk to have.
I think what he did better was embody like the nerdy scientist guy.
Okay.
And then he just flips out and turns into the Hulk.
Because that's the hard part, right? Is getting a good Bruce Banner.
Yes.
Because the Hulk is going to be the Hulk. We're going to
Regardless.
like that probably, no matter what. But yeah, a good Bruce Banner to like keep you involved, definitely.
Yeah, and the whole, I mean, I don't know how Norton would have delivered the "That's my secret, I'm always angry" line, because Ruffalo did a pretty good job with that, and that's like that's up there with like the badass lines that you can deliver. But I'm interested to see this. I would watch, and they could do a Hulk series now because apparently that's their thing. But Ruffalo, you can tell he just wants to play the Hulk or Bruce Banner more. So that's what I took away.
Well, that's good though, right? If he wants to do it, I mean,
it means that he doesn't hate it.
Yeah,
which is good.
Or want to do a good job at least. No, I like everything. I'll buy into it.
Well, yeah.
I appreciate him actually, even if he was just saying this out of the blue and not realizing that was the first full appearance of Wolverine in the comic books as in Incredible Hulk when they were fighting.
Somebody on his team probably told him. He is like a publicist.
Yeah. Just like, I have a great idea.
Yeah.
I still kind of respect that he would speak out for that. So
I'm good with that. I'm going to drop one more bit of news on you, and then I'm going to go to the bathroom because I've been drinking Busch Light. We normally on this podcast, we don't do full speculation stuff, but also who cares?
We do.
Because nobody relies on us as a news source. But there's this rumor now going through comicbookmovie.com and other websites that says that Doctor Doom is going to be introduced in Black Panther 2. So I dropped that bombshell, letting you both to pontificate, if you will, Mark, while I go pee.
That's good. No, I'm about that. I always thought Doctor Doom was one of the best villains, right, for Marvel, just because of how different he is, right? He's got magic, he's got his whole country, and he hasn't been done very well at all in films, right? So it would be great to...
When was the last film he was in?
It was one of the Fantastic Four ones.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I completely forgot about that. I mean, I was
where they made him like a
when I
super
saw that,
handsome guy through the whole movie and didn't put a mask on him. And I don't know that Doom and Panther have done a lot, even in the comics, like against each other. You know?
No, that's something to think about because I don't think they have either. But if you can get Doctor Doom right and you can get him right to the point where you can keep him going for the next whatever series of
because he's got to be like
movies
the next
you're
Thanos,
doing. Yeah,
almost.
I would hope that they wouldn't just do a one and done with him in the next Black Panther.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the way to take it.
Unless they got it really wrong and people were pissed off, which happens nowadays where
that's true.
They'll just have an outcry on Twitter and everyone will bitch and they'll change it.
Well, and to see like the clash between Wakanda technology and Doctor Doom magic would be an awesome spectacle, I mean, that's I feel like a classic comic tale, technology versus magic. Yeah,
Are there any Marvel villains that you'd want to see that haven't really been talked about? I feel like everything has been speculated a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
We're talking about, other than Doctor Doom, any Marvel villains you would, even though everyone speculates about every Marvel villain appearing.
Before I give my opinion, you know how I know Joe is a pro? Because usually when I leave and Mark has to try and carry a conversation, he just can't do it. And you carry that entire conversation. I really appreciate that about you.
Were you listening at the door?
Not really.
Let's see Hitmonkey.
Hitmonkey, yes, absolutely. I think his name kind of describes him perfectly. Right. I'm more familiar with him from Deadpool.
Yeah.
He was a hitman that was a monkey.
There it is.
Yeah.
Learned everything from watching Deadpool.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
I'm excited to see Taskmaster. I know we're already getting that.
Yep.
But that's a good villain. And if you're not familiar, the Spider-Man the Spider-Man cartoon that started around 2013
Was that Ultimate?
I think so.
That sounds like Ultimate.
They do so many different cartoons with different names.
There's literally 7 Spider-Man cartoons. I think there's like 5 right now on Disney Plus that you can watch.
Most of them are good.
Yeah. No,
that's what's weird about it. It's like they have so much source material to pull from that they're actually kind of decent. And I watched that a lot. But Taskmaster, I'm very excited for. Obviously, I want to see Victor Von Doom. Mm-hmm. But you have to have the most bombastic, over-the-top, ridiculous actor to play Doctor Doom. Like I can't even think off the top of my head who it would be. But they've got to be so arrogant. Mm-hmm. I mean, like
we talked about the. I forgot that they revealed Doctor Doom in Fantastic Four.
Yeah, thank God we can just push that out and forget about it. But
no, honestly, Joe didn't forget. I forgot, obviously.
Honestly, Dennis from It's Always Sunny, would be a good Von Doom, where he's just like so into himself.
Yeah.
I'm kind of into that.
Okay.
So
I'd watch it.
Yeah, I would totally watch that. But Bricks in the chat, and he says John Travolta.
No.
Did you ever watch The Fanatic? Isn't that a bet that you lost?
No. What does it have? Like 0.5% on Rotten Tomatoes?
It was directed by
worst
Fred Durst. How bad could it be?
Have you ever Googled worst guitar solo of all time, and it's all Fred Durst?
Seriously?
Yeah, he used to do
God.
guitar solos
No, I'm kinda
at
into
his whatever chocolate covered starfish album tour that he did when he was big. They're terrible, but they're awesome to watch.
Sounds
He
kinda
has
funny
no
to
idea
watch,
what
actually.
he's doing.
You end up down the worst YouTube rabbit holes.
It's so easy.
I do.
Though. You know, it's you're
super
laying in
easy.
bed. It's 2 a.m. Like, you ever do like the Wikipedia races?
No.
You ever do that? It's when you and whoever you're with, you're both on a computer, and you both start on the same Wikipedia page, like fire ants, right?
Yeah.
And through clicking Wikipedia page links alone,
In the bio and
in the
plot
bio
and whatever description. Yeah.
have to get to another page. You know, let's say like horseshoes, right?
Okay.
So from fire ants to horseshoes, who can ever click on links the fastest and get there wins. Like,
I was going to say Hitler. Like,
Sure.
there's a law about that. It's an internet-based law that's like
was
you only
gonna
have to go
say.
so far down the comment list before somebody calls someone else Hitler. I can't think of the name. I'm going to look this up now. In comment section, Hitler rule in comment section. Godwin's law is an internet adage asserting that as an online discussion grows longer, the probability of a comparison involving Nazis or Hitler approaches 1. The fact that this is an actual thing is hilarious to me.
there it is.
Are you guys seeing this right now?
Your dog is doing a.
I think he's stuck.
That's a yoga pose. I can't
think
think
it's
of it.
called the
It's not a
forward
downward
dog.
though. Yeah, the forward dog.
Forward
I
dog.
think he's
The
stuck
back
like
leg
that.
stretchy.
The lunge and look. I don't know.
That is. Hold on, stay there.
That's
we
a
gotta
perfect
get
transition.
this. Hold on, this is great. Best.
Best.
We the best!
Worst.
The worst! She's the worst person in the world. Huge skank, terrible, but thank you.
Oh, what a doofus. So, Joe, you've listened to the show before, and I'll give you a
have.
chance to think of, now that my dog is all up in your business, we're going to give our best man alive, which is usually the worst person alive. But if you're new to the show, this developed when Mark was trying to describe people's
No, it's Time
Magazine's Person of the Year, I think.
No, it was it Time? It was like the hottest man. No, yeah, it was
You mixed a bunch of different
Yeah.
awards together.
Yeah, all
It was
right.
like sexiest man alive,
Yeah.
person of the year, and whatever else. And
Fair.
For some reason, you called The Rock the best man alive. And
I would agree with
He's
that.
and
the
100
best man
episodes
alive.
ago, we just decided that was a segment we were going to go with. So,
Yeah.
I will kick this off. I don't know. Joe, are you a wrestling guy? You like WWE?
I played the N64 WWE game.
Same.
And
NWO versus WCW.
And I was always Sting, but that's probably as far as I've gotten into wrestling.
Fair enough. Well,
Just take off the Sting mask and reveal Sting.
that's my favorite. That's my favorite gif of all time. He pulls out a chair and like hits somebody, and he's wearing a plastic Sting mask. He pulls it
who
off,
is
and
he?
it's just Sting. So stupid. Anyways, Kyle Schwarber, who plays for the Chicago Cubs, last weekend they did Survivor Series in Rosemont, so like 10 miles from here. And Kyle Schwarber was front row, front and center, in a full Stone Cold Steve Austin getup.
Oh,
dude.
Like leather
Hell yeah.
vest,
It's-
backwards Kangol hat, 100% awesome.
I had a player in one of my D&D groups recently base their character off Stone Cold Steve Austin
Oh, that's amazing.
and Dog the Bounty Hunter.
It's amazing.
Wait,
yeah.
one has hair and the other has.
It was an
He's bald.
explosive session.
Okay, it sounds good.
A lot of beers were drank.
Hell yeah, brother!
You just
I
drink
bet
beers.
his beer catching stats are really, really good.
Fuck yeah.
Right?
God, also some of my favorite wrestling gifs are the best like genre of gifs on the internet. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin just catching a beer from somebody in the second like terrace up top.
You have the Undertaker just sitting straight up.
Yeah. I think most of my
That
life
is the
can be
best
described
hungover
in
meme of all
WWE
time.
Gifs.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Mark, who's your best man alive?
It's actually a worst woman alive. I want you guys to call bullshit on this. I guess I'm being pretty not sympathetic with this. Her name is Heidi Faulkner. She's 31, and she claims she was born with genic urticaria, a potential fatal allergy to water.
Okay,
Are you
that's
calling
not
bullshit on this?
possible.
What?
So supposedly,
I have a
it's
story connected to that, by the way.
is this a real thing?
No, it's not like actually about that, but about being allergic to water.
She supposedly possesses a very rare condition where her immune system thinks that H2O molecules are foreign and attacks them. So my first question is, aren't you like 60% water
70.
anyways? 70, all right. Shouldn't you be dead right now?
dead.
Yes, that's correct. You are a dead person then.
So this is News Daily. I don't know how accurate it is, but I'm
Is that
calling
like one
bullshit
of those
on this.
British rags that's like, Jesus is coming? And
Maybe.
it kind of sounds like it.
It could be.
Okay.
You have a story that connects to this, kind of? Somebody's allergic to water that
Right.
you know?
So I in high school I was a server at California Pizza Kitchen, right? And I had this lady order a salad, and she didn't want lettuce in the salad because she was allergic to salad.
That's not a salad.
And I'm just like, yeah, order a pizza or pasta if you don't want, like, first of all, you're not allergic to lettuce.
What does she want? Just cute. She wants a village salad.
Right, she wanted like spinach instead of lettuce. I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
All right, well, what's the difference? Like really, you know, like if you're really allergic to lettuce, you're probably allergic to spinach. But yeah, it's just like come on, like that's not real.
What the fuck?
I mean, maybe a lettuce allergy is real, but
Probably not.
I mean,
It's almost certainly. Like,
this lady in particular, she wasn't.
Worst person alive right there.
There it is.
fair enough.
Lady from California Pizza Kitchen in like 2009.
Very specific, but fuck that lady.
She insists on going out too, just so she can talk about her,
Just so she can talk about her allergy to lettuce.
her allergy to lettuce.
100%.
Always orders a salad. Like you would think she would order some other shit,
Order
like
a
a
pizza, order a
like a
pasta,
bratwurst
yeah.
or something. Get a fucking brat
Right?
and some sauerkraut.
All right, I have one other that I want to mention here, and this can probably go into a lot of different directions here, but my best person alive this week is whoever convinced people that tanning your butthole was a good idea.
Why is that a thing now?
I don't know, but they call it sunning your perineum, which is basically just tanning your taint.
That was a lot of information all at once.
Am I really the only person who's been seeing this?
I mean,
Isn't your sphincter your butthole, or is that like the inside of your butthole, like the
I'm not-
muscle?
I'm not a biologist.
The only
but
like
you know.
butthole stuff I've heard of is like those people that take molds of their butthole and then get chocolates made out of them. Have you not heard of that one?
And this has
What
been
is there
butthole
filling?
talk.
Do they fill it with something?
I hope not. I don't know. There's probably an upcharge option, but yeah,
They're
no.
definitely
Like,
fudge filled.
No, with pecans.
but like you can like send them to people, right? So like I could send you a chocolate mold of my butthole, and
Yeah.
I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
I
You know?
think we both know what that means.
The
It means
best-
I want you to eat my asshole.
The best part of that is you'd probably look at it and be like, "Oh my god, is this a flower?" And then you look closer and you'd be like, "That's a fucking
It's like a Hershey's
asshole."
Kiss, but it's got some extra
Fucking
wrinkles
asshole.
in it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, this has been a thing for like the last 2 weeks on Instagram because white people. They're saying that you can absorb more vitamin D in like 30 seconds from the sun if you show your butthole to the sun.
So you're butt chugging the sun.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's described.
Wow.
Josh Brolin took to Instagram to show a picture of him like
Butt
ankles in
chugging
the air. He's butt chugging the sun. He's butt chugging sunlight. He's like grabbing his ankles, like showing his butthole to the sun. You know, I gotta commend the guy for leaning into this.
What's the logic? If you expose your butthole to the sun, you'll absorb more vitamin D, so you'll get a better tan. Like what is?
No, it's like vitamin D like is a mood booster.
Okay.
Like you need that to be happy. It helps
be
produce
energized.
serotonin and stuff.
You know, being happy. Have you
Yes,
done that
just
before?
show your butthole out.
Sunlight and buttholes, the
Honestly, I
ultimate
think
happiness.
It's just like exposing your butthole just kind of makes you feel giddy.
What are you guys doing after this?
I'm showing my butthole to the sun.
There's no sun. Do you have UV light? We can just fucking open it up.
But one of my favorite tweets of the week was in direct reference to this. So maybe this is lore based, but the sun god Ra, you know, R-A, it was like an Egyptian god in the past, the god of the sun.
I'm familiar. Yeah.
Of course, you got to be familiar. My favorite tweet of this was the sun god, Ra, cradling a coffee cup in both hands as he stares down at the chorus line of taints. And in quotes, they
You
used
get
to
it.
build statues to me. And now they just show me his butthole. That's a perfect tweet. And it's the most 2019 white people shit I've ever seen.
It's about to be 2020 if people keep this up.
Do you think 2020 can possibly be weirder than 2019? was?
Absolutely, 100%. It's 2020. People just knowing that it's 2020 are going to freak the fuck out and do some ultimate weird shit.
I do think that it gets every week is weirder than the last.
What do you think is going to happen in Florida when it's 2020?
Oh God!
Like how many news stories are going to see?
We're gonna have to just break it off ourselves. You know
Where
what
it's
I mean?
like-
praying for that earthquake that just like sets it off adrift.
Like man burglarized cheese factory and was serving Cheez-Its to community, like random shit that comes out of Florida
That's
all the
not a
time.
Florida story at
that
all. That
sounds
actually
great.
sounds really nice.
Like man bursts into cheese facility and shoves Cheez-Its up his butthole.
Okay,
That's
that's
more
more
of a
Florida.
Florida
Yeah,
man.
I guess.
And then eat
True.
someone's face. Like
Can Florida Man Florida Man is a D&D character, isn't it?
Could
I
be.
remember reading that story.
What does Florida Man look like? Mullet?
He was like ravenous and eating people's faces.
I think
Tan?
Florida Man would be a shape changer, which is just like you don't know what they look like. Like,
That's
they have,
fucked up.
That's the
They
scariest
have
of all.
7 different identities. That's Florida Man.
I think we have a
That's
script
terrifying.
for a movie right now. Florida Man, a shape changer.
Oh my
Just
God.
haunts.
That's enough to
everyone.
get people into the box office alone would be $1 billion first weekend. Just Florida Man.
Are we doing this?
Just to be able to put it on like a marquee above a theater. Hell yeah,
I'm down for this.
I'm in for that. Okay.
Holy
This has
shit.
been Finance Fun with Smithers.
That was the wrong drop. That's not what I meant to play there.
Sometimes we talk about finance
Are we
and
legally
stocks.
obliged to transition into finance though? Like, because that
well,
what
technically we
happened.
could.
I have no finance news though.
Did you hear that The Mandalorian apparently is the most streamed show in the first month of opening of anything ever?
I believe it.
I
And
was-
I think I bought your promo posters that you got from the Star Wars Fest.
yes,
The other day.
we brought in some
For
extra
a pretty good upcharge, but I'm fine with it.
Worth it.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
What is it?
Have you guys been to Star Wars Celebration?
I bought 2 Mandalorian promo posters that are yay big-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, I don't know, I think you're selling them for $25-$30. And I'm like, give me that.
So we
Whatever.
did not go to Star Wars Celebration this year. Chuck, our guy, Chuck Load of Comics went. He had a big presence there. He and Sean and a few other people there. I think it was like a couple of weeks after C2E2, and we were just.
It was before.
Was it?
Yeah,
I think we were
because
just. Kinda,
C2E2 was so lame because I went to Star Wars Celebration and the C2E2.
That looks sick. We should have went to that, even though I'm
We
not the
should
biggest
have.
Star Wars guy.
Like it's
I would be fucking ashamed to bring you there.
I know.
He texted. He sent a message in the Discord.
He's going to get pissed. He's a huge Star Wars guy.
I'm pissed.
I am, but but I'm excited for you though because you get to experience all the Star Wars for the first time. I would kill for that opportunity.
All right, well,
But
listen
he
to
was
the story
shitting at us
first.
the whole time.
I wasn't
well, fuck
shitting.
you.
I wasn't shitting. Hold on. Listen. All right.
like he was shitting
So
on
I just watched. I watched A New Hope like at different times in my life. Never watched it from the beginning to end.
Sure.
I sat down this past week and I'm like, I have Disney Plus. I'm going to watch the whole series from not the chronological order, but
skip
the
the
recommended. Release
or
order. There you go.
something. Sure.
So I watched A New Hope, and overall, I thought the movie was great. I was just thinking like
Naturally.
all the time we give the excuse for movies that were shot in the 70s, in the late 60s, like they didn't have the technology, and like it's because it's an older movie. Like The Shining, we were talking about the acting, and you were telling me like you got to understand
Acting
like
40 years ago was just
wasn't
yelling
the
really
same.
loud.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, it was the fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I was watching it, and I'm just like, you didn't have one guy on set, and especially the guy that was doing the fight scenes, the choreography. Like, you didn't have somebody on set being like, this doesn't look good. Like, I didn't think those fight scenes looked good at all. It was just my one issue with it. I'm just like, I don't care what time period it is. They're swinging it slow, and it just looked unnatural. And I'm
Joe,
like,
how would you feel if I fired Mark from this podcast and you just took a spot?
Joe's like, get the fuck out of my face.
Hey, Mark's my friend, and we need to take this opportunity to educate him.
Yeah, educate me on that fight scene.
You know what I'm
You
saying?
are clearly not cynical enough to be a podcaster. I will convert you. Don't worry.
If
Defend that
I
fight
need
scene.
to send you this. I need to send you this video because there actually is like a fan made video of the Vader Obi-Wan fight on the Death Star.
Okay.
Where they redo it, where like it's good and like Vader's like swinging heavy, right? And,
Exactly.
Like, Obi-Wan's like trying to keep up, but he can't. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it makes sense, and I think the fight may be a little lackluster because of Obi-Wan, because he kind of knows that he's going to lose the fight.
Okay.
Like he's just stalling for Luke and the gang to get away. Like
Okay.
he knows he's going to
That's
die,
fair.
so he could become a Force ghost, so he could come back and help Luke in that way. You
Boom.
know? So like, But yeah, I could see seeing for the first time.
I'm just like, there wasn't one guy like, yo, this is kind of weak.
Right, coming from like Infinity War, where it's just intense fighting left and right, and then they're just like throwing their limp sabers at each other. You know, it's like, But, you know,
you are so much nicer to Mark than I have ever been.
And I'm pretty sure I saw a moment where they were crossing him, but Obi-Wan's was on the other side. So technically, he would have just got shoved in the face with a lightsaber. I have to go back and rewatch it. But I get that. Go ahead.
Fucking error in one of the Dark Knight trilogy movies. You would lose your shit.
No,
that didn't happen. No, because he wanted to be that way. No, I can't with you right now.
Okay, no, that makes more sense. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, obviously, because I haven't finished the whole Star Wars series.
Whatever, The Mandalorian is awesome.
It is awesome.
See this creep right now?
How is the sound, by the way?
Fine.
Did you? Okay. I'm
sure
assuming
haven't.
somebody would have said some shit.
If Brick would be the first person to come out and tell us that we sound like shit. So
Okay.
So our review this week is obviously going to be a little bit shorter because
as it should be.
I wanted to talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
I did too, and I didn't want to, because this movie was so fucking long. I didn't want to talk long about this movie at all.
All right. So the review for this week is The Irishman. This is a long hyped movie written and directed by Martin Scorsese. People are going to tell me that I'm just butthurt that Martin Scorsese hates comic book movies. That's not the case. If that were the case, then I would be here saying that every Scorsese movie up to this point was bad, and they're not. But The Irishman is 3.5 hours long.
And it doesn't need to be.
For no reason.
So Mark, texts me, hey, we're gonna review The Irishman on the stream, the podcast. I'm like, okay, cool. And then yesterday he sends me a message. Oh yeah, it's 3.5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, about that.
You wouldn't have known it was Titanic.
Look,
Titanic's not even that long, is it?
I don't know.
It's on 2 VHSs.
Well, I was going to say, how many VHS tapes would this movie have been?
I think a VHS can only go an hour and 40 minutes or something, though.
I'm not sure. In HD, it would not.
Okay, so
even
you know
last
that trivia, but you've never seen Star Wars?
No. Seriously.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I do a
one.
fucking movie podcast with him. The other guy...
I will be caught up by
knows
next
less
week.
about movies.
I will be caught up next week.
Okay, we'll see.
Promise.
Before we get into the details on this.
Yes.
This movie is currently at 96% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, 86% from fans, and I don't get it.
I think it's just a lot of people love Scorsese movies, and this is a fan service. This is a service to movie watchers because everyone pretty much does. You can watch it with your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, and they're semi-intrigued by all the shit that's happening, all the situations and shit blowing up and people getting killed and backstabbed and so on.
So Brick's in the chat, and he says Titanic was 3 hours, 15 minutes. This is officially longer than Titanic.
Cool.
My wife would have fallen asleep 7 times.
I agree.
During this.
So did mine. We tried watching it. I kept watching it. She was asleep.
I split. Did you do this in one sitting?
I did it. Yeah, I had like 30 minutes left, and I stopped.
I split this into 5 different pieces.
Okay.
So Godfathered it, essentially.
No, because that implies that it was good.
Oof, there it is.
Yeah.
I should say this movie is fine. It's not bad by any stretch. The act. I mean, if you looked at the cast, you would know that it was not poorly acted, even though Al Pacino is washed the fuck up. This is not a terrible movie, but it had no business being 3.5 hours long. So, Joe, you told me that you tried to start watching it and you made it through about an hour. At what point were you like, I'm not going to be able to do this?
It wasn't out of like not being interested. It's just out of like I had other things to do, right, and I had to back away from it. The first half that I got into it, I liked it. Again, that's just me coming from liking everything, but right, I mean, like I love seeing Joe Pesci on the screen. I love Goodfellas, right? And it felt like a lot of Goodfellas vibe to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before
you go on, what is your favorite mob movie of all time?
It's gotta be Goodfellas.
Okay.
And I've got a good story that goes with it. But we don't have to get
Indulge us, please.
So I have a very big Italian family, right? And we were watching the Goodfellas with my grandmother, right, who's very Italian, and I guess spoilers ahead or whatever. There's
Goodfellas, it came out 30 years ago.
30 years ago. There's drug dealing and murder and gang activity and drug usage and theft and all that kind of stuff. And we're watching this whole movie with my Italian grandmother, right? And the movie wraps up. And I looked to her and go, hey, Grandma, what'd you think? And she goes, that movie was a load of shit. They did not portray the Italian people the correct way. We do not swear that much.
Yeah.
That's all she said.
Really?
She had no problem with the murdering,
problem with the
the
swearing.
drug dealing, the money laundering. Everything else is fine. Yeah. We just do not swear
don't
that
swear
much,
like that.
Chopping up garlic in prison. Yeah, no, that's fine. We do that. But
there it is.
Wait, that's a different movie.
I also felt like every flashback, they try to get the actors to look younger and younger, which was kind of funny to me, right? I don't know which portrait of them was their actual selves.
That's fair. I think.
Wait, was De Niro? So it's weird that this movie does. They do the current. They do the flashbacks, but you're supposed to kind of accept that the current is when Pesci and him are getting in the car and going on that road trip. Yeah. But then it starts though when he's in the home. So you have
exactly
everything is a look back.
Yeah.
Him in the home.
Okay. His current state, yeah.
Okay.
Him in
everything
the car,
outside of that is a flashback.
But they kept jumping to that point, that past point in time.
Yes,
when they were on the road trip.
So I guess that's another thing that you could say about it is I don't necessarily think it was confusing, but if you didn't understand the timeline, I could see why.
I understood it. I'm just pointing it out that it was different.
So this movie was, I guess I should say adapted. I shouldn't say written by Scorsese because it's based on a book by a guy named Charles Brandt who wrote I Heard You Paint Houses, which was basically a euphemism for, you would call somebody if your phone was tapped. It's a euphemism for I heard you kill people.
Yep.
So that's kind of the Jimmy Hoffa thing that they introduced in this, the fact that it's based on actual history. And I don't want to call it historical fiction because for all I know, this is exactly what happened. But nobody knows what happened to Jimmy Hoffa. So it's kind of just, I guess, speculation on what happened to Jimmy Hoffa.
Because technically Frank Sheeran had never admitted it.
He hadn't. He didn't. And it's not Ed Sheeran's dad, it's Frank Sheehan.
Hold on. They actually said that there is a very good chance that Ed Sheeran's, one of his distant cousins is related to Frank. I thought it was a joke. And then I kept reading that, no, they're not directly related, but they're looking into it and they think it might be one of his fourth cousins.
You're right. I totally just fucked that up. It's Frank Sheeran.
It's Sheeran.
I thought it was Sheehan.
No, it's Sheeran.
You're right.
Just a little fact checking would go a long way.
Yes.
The fact that there's video evidence of this is really upsetting to me.
No, I saw a Vulture news story and it had Ed Sheeran in his face, and I'm just like, is Ed Sheeran related to Frank Sheeran? I'm just like, this is fucking hilarious. Let me read this, and they're he actually is. People are thinking they're looking into it. They're like, he probably is his fifth related relative.
Okay, fair enough. I stand corrected.
Thought it was funny.
I am big enough to admit when I fucked up.
All right.
And I fucked up.
There it is.
Mark, give me your take and your recommendation on this movie.
If you like Scorsese movies, do not go into this thinking that it's going to be like Goodfellas or Casino or anything like that.
It's the opposite of Casino.
Yes, and that's one of my favorite mob movies besides Scarface, but that's a super frat boy, got the poster of Tony Montana in my room,
That is one of the most overrated movies of all time.
I really like Scarface.
You would.
Anyways, it's 3.5 hours long. Prepare. I wouldn't recommend splitting it up into 5 segments like Smithers here.
Boy,
I would maybe just split it up into 2. I could get through it. I wasn't upset that was a complete waste of my time kind of thing. That was not the case for me. I just didn't think it was one of the best Scorsese things that have come out in the last 20, 30 years.
I don't think it's close.
Okay. But I appreciated the cast they brought in there. I actually really appreciated the one-off cast members they brought in there.
Oh
I'm a
my God,
huge
the cameos.
Action Bronson fan.
The cameos are fucking amazing.
Dude, Action Bronson at the end. I don't know if you listen to any Action Bronson, but he's a rapper from, I think he's from Queens. Big, fat, white guy. He was a chef, like
He has a show called Fuck That's Delicious on Vice.
he was a really well-known chef in New York, and he would just rap in the back, and people were like, dude, you're fucking good. And he ended up just taking his career into rap, and he's pretty well known, and he has now shows on Vice and HBO. But anyways, he made a cameo. They have Sebastian Maniscalco, who's from Arlington Heights, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy's hilarious.
Hilarious, especially people don't appreciate him as much if you're not from Chicago.
Or even Italian.
Yeah.
Like that's the
So
thing.
Italian.
Yeah, like
I'm totally blanking on the guy's name, but the guy that played Don Rickles in this is another famous comedian. He got famous on Howard Stern. God, I can't believe I can't remember his name. I'm going to look this up, but keep going with your review, and I'll drop this in there eventually.
No, I thought that was great. Just the cameos we had in it. I obviously liked it more than you did. We give it a see it, stream it, or skip it review. Usually, obviously, that's for movies. Go see it in the theater. Since this is already a stream it, I'll stick to it and say stream this. If you have 3.5 hours to spare and you do appreciate Scorsese and you do like the cast that he brings into his movies and the plot that he has in a lot of it with all the mobsters and everything.
You know who Jim Norton is?
No.
He's a really, really dirty comedian who talks basically explicitly about sex, and that's it.
Okay. Was he in it?
He was Don Rickles. He was the guy
Okay.
he was the comedian that was on stage, was like, I make fun of everybody except for those Italians right there, because they were clearly not members.
Okay.
That's
Gotcha.
Jim Norton.
Gotcha.
The cameos in this were awesome. Mm-hmm. And the cast, you look at it and you think, this is really good. And then you realize that Al Pacino hasn't been good at anything in about 25 years. Well, when did they release Any Given Sunday? That's probably the last good thing that he was in.
I don't think it was 25 years
20
ago.
years ago, probably.
Yeah.
I think it was late 90s.
Okay.
So De Niro is excellent in this. Don't get me wrong. But when they de-age him and he tries to beat somebody up,
It's bad.
you can tell he's an old man.
It's bad.
And that's not a bad thing, I guess. It's just like, come on. Like,
Takes you out of it a little bit.
bring a stunt double in.
Yeah.
That can beat
Kick
the shit
out of
somebody.
him.
Or something. I don't know. You don't need to de-age everybody in this. You didn't need to bring Joe Pesci back. Everybody's talking about,
Uh-oh.
dude, you just turned off my TV. My dog just turned off my TV by stepping on the remote.
and we're back.
Joe Pesci, first of all, what gave him a butt nose? And why is that a thing now? Why does he have a butt on his nose?
I didn't notice
Trying
that.
to get more vitamin D, I think.
Yeah.
That's
Good point.
very possible. What?
Hey, you got to respect Joe Pesci. He was probably my favorite part of this.
I do
whole
respect Joe
movie.
Pesci, but this is his most reserved role ever. Usually he's the loud, crazy guy. Like, get your shine box.
You don't
Or
know
he's-
what the fuck's going to happen next.
He's
with
in
him.
Lethal Weapon, and he's just being ridiculously over the top. This was the opposite of that. And that's why I say, like, Casino. Okay, Casino is like, bam, 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 going through everything. It's happening immediately.
It's the best.
It's the opposite of a 3.5 hour long slow burn movie where you're talking about mob members. And I don't know, the whole Buffalo crime family thing, just like it just didn't speak to me. And I know that it sounds like I didn't like this movie, but that's not the case. It was fine. It's just everybody's talking about why it deserves an Oscar nomination and all this shit. And I guess I just don't understand it.
Do you think it's because Scorsese had to some aspect, stay inside the lines? Like, didn't really have the ability
Because
to go
it's a true
outside?
story?
Because, yeah, it's
It
historical
kinda
fiction,
is,
but
he
still.
can still take liberties with it.
Okay.
He can still take liberties because nobody knows what actually happened to Jimmy Hoffa. So
But then you have a lot of the issues, like you gotta have to pay respect to the family and stuff like that. You can't go.
I don't really
overboard with
think that he
kind of stuff.
did.
Yeah,
Do you feel that way?
I don't know.
I don't think
I
that he was
know.
super respective to respective.
You got it. You
Jesus.
work it out.
I've had a few beers, okay? I don't think he was super respective to the Hoffa family or Jimmy Hoffa in particular.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of painted him as a piece of shit, to be honest, as an arrogant man who got himself into trouble with the mob, which he was, but there's no respect there.
Do you think Scorsese actually knew Jimmy Hoffa?
He's old enough. Could be.
Could. I don't know. I'm too fucking young to even.
Why was Anna Paquin in this movie if they didn't give her a single fucking line?
She is, what's her name? She's the daughter.
She is De Niro's daughter. In this movie, her name is Peggy, and she's the daughter who basically cuts off all connection. I don't feel like this is a spoiler because this movie is based on actual events, kind of. It's De Niro's daughter who hates him because she realizes that he's a mob guy.
Yeah.
You're saying you could have gave that role to anyone else. You didn't need her, who is pretty well known within.
She's an Oscar-nominated actress, and she had 0 lines in this entire movie. And I was waiting for her to have a scene with Robert De Niro where they like get into it, and she's like, "You ruined my life by being a mafia guy." I don't know.
A lot of her
Mafioso.
acting was just disappointed, disgusted
It's
looks.
just blank looks. I didn't get it. I didn't get so many things about this movie, and I don't know. I'm just repeating myself now by saying that I'm not.
Yeah, if
shitting
you're gonna
on it,
have
but
a
I'm kinda
3.5
shitting
hour
on it.
movie, have those moments in it.
I get it. I get it. I'm going to stick with it. I think if you have Netflix, don't go out of your way to fucking subscribe to Netflix just to see this movie because it's a Scorsese movie, but watch it if you have those 3.5 hours. I think it's a stream it.
I think this is perfect for that conversation that we continue having about being able to watch something at like 1.5 times speed, because and given that Scorsese took his time with this, he gave it time to breathe. He took these long, winding shots of, and it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong; it's directed very well. I just think that the story is kind of lacking, and you could have fit it in about 2 hours instead of 3.5, which is not giving it any favors. Also, if you shoot somebody in the face point blank with a .38 pistol, their face doesn't just look like their face with a hole in it. Their head fucking explodes. Okay. Somebody should have explained that to Martin Scorsese at some point. But, man, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this. It's fine.
What are you going to recommend it as a stream or no?
Boy, you better have a lot of fucking time on your hands.
Did you finish it?
Are you gonna go watch the rest of this?
I am.
Okay.
I am. I think having that break is nice because I kind of got to sit on it and decide if I wanted to finish it, and I do.
Are you just gonna look for your family members in the background, or?
Yeah, right. I guess I'm not like super hot to finish it. It's not like the first thing I'm gonna do when I have like some time at home. But yeah, I would say I'm looking forward to it.
I'm really struggling. Like, if I had to choose between watching the new episode of The Mandalorian or this, it's always going to be The Mandalorian.
Oh,
Or even watch the newest
100%.
episode again. You know,
Probably.
Yeah.
I've not finished it. Don't talk about it.
I tried really hard to explain
coming
to my
from
wife.
a guy who just watched The New Hope. Don't
I love
worry.
Mandalorian.
We weren't expecting you to.
And I semi get it.
I was trying really
Well,
hard.
I mean, not to like go totally off track, but the
for it.
nice thing about The Mandalorian and how I've like turned my not Star Wars friends onto it is that it's not a Star Wars heavy show.
Not really.
You don't need to know everything about Star Wars. You don't need to see all the movies, all the TV shows, all the cartoons to get into The Mandalorian.
And you take the one thing that a non-Star Wars fanboy relates to the show, Yoda, probably one of the favorite characters of people that don't watch Star Wars, and you make him cute as shit.
make them cute as shit.
Like, come on.
Jon Favreau
It's
knows
the best
what he's
move
doing.
ever. Best move ever.
I think this was probably the latest episode was the most reliant on the lore of Star Wars, if you will, because
Yes.
they show an AT-ST.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, okay.
What is that?
It's one of the big Imperial walkers that has 2 legs and big guns on the front. You remember
Yes, okay.
the big walkers with 4 legs?
Yeah, they're
Those
like
are-
grayish.
Those
Yep.
are AT-ATs. Those are AT-ATs.
That's what
This is a 2-legged one.
That's what Skywalker in the one with Rey wasn't he trying to stop those when they were at war in the desert? Weren't
Yes.
those eight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most recent Rise of Skywalker. Yes.
Wait, what do you want to say? You're like,
Boy.
mother.
I was
You
just
trying
like,
to explain
that was
that is
just
just
the most
painful.
generic description.
But it works.
It gets you there.
Yeah. So, anyways, The Irishman. See it or don't. I don't care.
I'm going to say stream it.
Okay.
Sticking to my guns.
Joe, maybe you'll finish it. Maybe you won't.
I say stream it, watch it.
It's
At least the first hour is good.
boy, it's fine. All right. At the end of the show every week, we do our recommendations for things that we've been watching. Mark, do you want to kick this off?
No, you kick it off.
Okay.
I was going to recommend Pull the Lever, but I assume that Joe
Yes.
wants to talk
we'll let
more
him
about
do
Pull the
that.
Lever.
So I actually convinced my wife, who I've kind of gotten into The Simpsons. She will watch some of the earlier episodes. I convinced her that The Simpsons movie is actually really good.
Yeah.
It is one of the few recent Simpsons properties that is actually worth watching. It's not really that recent. It's probably 10 years old at this point, but it's on Disney Plus, so you can go stream it along with the original, say, 8 seasons of The Simpsons that are worth watching. There's a lot of news going around right now because I think Danny Elfman came out and said that they're probably going to stop making it sometime soon. I don't see that happening because they're still making a shitload of money on The Simpsons. But the movie, The Simpsons movie, is on Disney Plus, and if you have that service, you can absolutely go watch this, and it's very much worth watching.
I will stick with the Disney Plus topic and say my non-recommendation would be for Lady and the Tramp, the live action. I watched that. That's a girlfriend wife kind of.
Yeah.
Let's remember the old animated Lady and the Tramp and have that nostalgia. And we watched it, and it was just not there at all. It was not a good movie in my opinion. Nope.
Are you
I
sure
thought
it
was
wasn't
pretty
just
bad.
like directed at kids?
Nope. I just thought it was a poorly written, and it was boring. It was super boring.
Okay.
And they didn't do justice to the original story. In my opinion.
I couldn't sit here and say that I remember the original well enough to.
I will say a lot of the big scenes you remember, like the spaghetti scene and everything, and just
Obviously. What about the Siamese cats?
We are Siamese.
that was one of my favorite parts in the movie is when they introduced the Siamese cats and they just destroyed everything in the house. But other than that, I would not recommend that movie.
Okay.
It was a disappointment compared to what Disney Plus has been putting out as originals with Mandalorian and
Not everything's going to be a home run.
The Mandalorian
no, I
needed
get
to
it.
be in Lady and the Tramp, you know.
I'd watch that.
Quick cameo.
yeah.
Something.
Joe, is there anything that you've been watching or reading or anything lately? That,
Reading, yes, especially for all my D&D fans out there. A book called The Monsters Know What They're Doing, written by Keith Ammon. It's a good source book, especially for dungeon masters and players. But it's based off his blog, his very well-known blog that gives insight and tactful planning into the monsters of Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Okay.
And as a DM, it gives you insight on how to roleplay a bugbear, how to roleplay an Umber Hulk, how to roleplay an orc or a dinosaur, whatever, and give more life to the character in the game.
Okay.
Instead of just being like, the bugbear runs up to you and scratches you and pecks you, the bugbear has like motives and tactics and themes and thoughts and feelings and how to just portray those better.
Do you recommend this for an experienced dungeon master? Would you
for
say
anybody.
really for someone
For
starting out?
Starting off,
Okay.
it gives a good description of monsters, right? And how they work and how to use them in your games. And as an experienced DM, it's given me more skills to better portray monster personalities and make monsters unique and different and make my players remember them.
Nice.
Definitely. It's a good
Very cool.
lesson to learn, yeah.
Okay. Well, at this point, I will give you one more chance to plug Pull the Lever and everything else. So
Absolutely, yeah, I appreciate that. Pull the Lever. You can find me on Instagram at Pull the Lever DM. On Twitter, it's at Lever Pull. And even if you want to just email me, if you have business in your careers or just have a question about D&D, pull the lever DM at gmail.com. I will come run a game for you, whether it be over Discord or in Chicago, or if you just have a question at all about the game and you need a resource, reach out to me. I'll help you out.
And they can also meet you at GaryCon, right?
I will be at GaryCon, yeah. Coming up next year, late March. I actually will be DMing 2 sessions that will be open to the public. So if you want to come get a free game from Pull the Lever, you can sign up for my session. Check out the website, garycon.com, and come say hi.
God damn, maybe we
That's
need to go
dope.
to GaryCon.
I'll go check it out.
It's pretty great.
I'd be down.
I mean, we'll be seeing you in the very near future for sure to DM a game for us.
Oh, man.
Definitely.
You're going to hate us so much.
Yeah. You're going to be like,
and I
Mark,
just
you
gonna
can't
start
fucking do
arguing with
that.
each other.
I'm stoked. No, that's great. That's great.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody for tuning in. This has been episode 171 of the Chumpcast. As always, you can find us on all social media platforms at the Chumpcast. You can also call or text us at 847-920-6107. And until next time.
Chumps out, motherfucker.